is also choosing to accept the specific values inherent to science. There is a higher demand for honesty and transparency in science than in everyday life. Science has developed its own values, which are generally associated with openness, honesty, scrupulousness, objectivity, an unbiased attitude, independence, and love of truth. So let's try to look into the legal basis on the importance of research ethics, because we need to undertake ethics review. And I believe that all of the institutions in here have their research ethics committee. So let's look into the legal basis. So CHED, in assistance to facilitating the accreditation to Philippine Health Research Ethics Board of Research Ethics Review Committees of all higher education institutions, issued a memorandum to all RERCs, or the Research Ethics Review Committee of universities and colleges. So what are these? So we do have CHED Regional Memo Order number 2, series of 2019, to ensure the safety, dignity, and well-being of human participants in research. So CHED reiterated that all institutions support and participate on the establishment of their respective RECs, or Research Ethics Committees, and apply for accreditation with the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board. Furthermore, a joint memorandum order 2012-001 that all institutions should have their health research involving human subjects to undergo ethical review and clearance before implementation. We also have the Administrative Order number 40, series of 1999, that rules and regulations in the conduct of scientific procedures using animals, instituting the basic systems, organizations, and practices in all laboratory animal care and establishments to safeguard the welfare of animals used in research. And the CMO number 15, series of 2019, section 14, it speaks on the ethical standards. The HEI, or the Higher Educational Institution, maintains ethical standards to be observed by faculty and students when they conduct research, thesis, dissertation involving human participation using animal subjects. The HEI may adopt ethical standards developed by appropriate government agencies. So, with that particular notion, let me float the question: is it sufficient that you handed over an informed consent to respondents before the conduct of the research and no need to undertake ethics review? So it's so clear from the presentations of the legal basis that it is not sufficient. Even CHED directed all of us that everything should undertake research review even before the conduct of the study. Okay, so let me flash back the screen. Okay. In the organization of the Research Ethics Committee in all universities, we are all aware that the members of the Research Ethics Committee should undertake different training. So these are the breadth, or the basic research ethics training, the responsible conduct of research. We also have the good clinical practice, or even the standard operating procedures, the crafting of the SOP of the ethics board of the university. And other relevant training that includes Research Ethics Committee staff training, so that they may get capacitated on things to do, how to put things in order in the research office, in the ethics office. Hence, a need to address undertaking those different training would address ethical challenges or any new development that may arise. Like for instance, we do have the current pandemic at this time, no? Hence, we could not afford to let our researchers or even our respondents, participants, informants in research get affected by the virus. Hence, there has to be an ethical considerations of research that clearly stipulated the health protocol in the conduct of the study. All right. So we do have here the purpose of ethics review. So the role of the Research Ethics Committee is to protect the safety, rights, and well-being of the research participants and to promote ethically sound research. So a need to determine the worth of the study. Among other duties, this involves ensuring that research complies with the national and the international data protection laws regarding the use of personal information collected in research. In so doing, it improves our study. So there are different eyes in looking into the proposal. So different lenses, no? Not just the panelists. So also with the Research Ethics Committee, so that the paper, no? Hoping that the paper is worthy of publication. So if there is no clearance for ethics, unlikely that the paper will get published. Okay. So what are these? We do have the, how did we ensure that the do no harm is fully implemented in the study? And what about the assurance of the of anonymizing the respondents? It has to be taken into consideration as well. What about the storage of the answered tool? Could it be the physical paper or even the data itself that is being encoded? No? The banking of that data. How was the archiving of those different data? And who can access those data? So these things have to be safeguarded by the research ethics review of the university or different universities. All right. Another issue that I would raise in here is many researchers would go to different communities and gather data from informants, participants, and respondents. Community residents were getting, it's unavoidable, they're getting apathetic because they feel that they were just being used. Researchers would just go into the community, gather data, and after that, you can never hear from them afterwards. In other words, we researchers at present have to be very mindful that we are carrying the torch of further researchers. Like, if we are doing this to the community, we don't go back to them, we don't present our findings to them, we don't bring together the different stakeholders on how to address the gaps in our research. The people in the community would just feel that they are being used. So it is our responsibility, our moral obligation, the utilization of the research need to bring together the stakeholders on how to implement the programs fed by the research findings to facilitate the development of people and communities. So let's try to look into how to undertake ethics review. So we are already aware of this, but this is just a reiteration so that our students who are with us will know how to undertake the ethics review and then hopefully a higher rate of approval. So upon submission of the protocol to the Research Ethics Committee or the IRB, acceptance of submission package will be done by the Secretariat. So these are the different things that need to be indicated in the submission. There are forms to fill out, checklists to comply. And then the Secretariat will provide the information to the researcher if the submission is complete. So when it is complete, it will be handed over to the chair of the Research Ethics Committee. Okay, so here it goes. So either way, whatever would be stipulated in your standard operating procedure. It could be that the Research Ethics Committee chair and the member secretary of the Research Ethics Committee will determine the type of the review needed for that research protocol. Either it will undertake exemption from review, is it expedited review, or is it full board review? So whatever it is not the researcher who will decide if the protocol is exempted from review. It should be the Research Ethics Committee. So what are the different protocols that would be considered as exempted from review? So we do have not more than minimal risk or harm. Like for instance, no direct human participation, nor use of identifiable human tissue or biological samples and data. It could also be institutional quality assurance purposes, public health programs, public health surveillance, educational evaluation activities, and consumer acceptability tests. So those are qualified as exempted of review. So when we say expedited review, these are studies that not more than minimal risk or harm. Study does not involve vulnerable population. And who are the vulnerable population? We do have children, we do have elderlies, the PWDs, the IPs, or even women, especially those who are subjected to domestic violence. So also with studies that do not involve collection of stigmatizing information, or even study that uses anonymized or archived sample or involve data already collected or will be collected for ongoing medical treatment or diagnosis. Further, continuing review of clinical trials that do not involve further recruitment of participants, continuing review of studies previously classified under expedited review, and study protocol amendments that are administrative in nature and do not affect study protocol. Now let's go to full board. These are clinical trials about investigational new drugs, biologics, or device in various phases. Intervention research involving drugs, biologics, or device. Protocols involving questionnaires and social intervention that are confidential in nature, that may cause psychological, legal, economic, and other social harm. So those could be considered as full board review, including protocols involving vulnerable subjects that require additional protection from ethics review board during review, and protocols involving collection of identifiable biological specimens for research. All right. So what are the different elements of the review process? So a need to look into what is the scientific and social value of the research? How about the scientific validity or soundness? Okay, so if there are some technical issues that were not being found out by probably the panels and can be seen by the Research Ethics Committee, researchers should have the good heart to accept. The more reviewers, the better for acceptability once again for publication. So we will know that there are many lenses that went over the paper. Of course, the ethical soundness, and lastly, the qualification of investigator and adequacy of study sites. Now, these are the things that will be looked into by the review process. Okay, the review process would, let's say, that particular study was being provided by two experts in the Research Ethics Committee, and then the two experts will discuss the different points and concerns about the paper, And then it will be decided if is there a need for major revision or minor revision or approval. So it will be given back to the researcher when those things were being addressed. Then it could be decided for approval by the chair of the Research Ethics Committee. Then it will be communicated, the decision will be communicated to the proponent, including what is the decision? If it is approved, let's say, major revision or minor revision. So once those were being addressed once again, then it will be approved by the committee or the research ethics chair. All right. Before I'll end, I would like to share the best practice of the University of Bohol on ethics review. So hopefully this could also help other organizations who are just starting with their research ethics committee or who are applying for accreditation to FREB for their research ethics committee. So the first thing we did at the University of Bohol was we formulated the standard operating procedures for the ethics review and had it institutionalized for implementation. We did that in 2016. After it was being crafted, it was approved by our university president, it was being cascaded down the line by various trainings from faculty, teaching and the non-teaching, as well as students in the university, both in the undergrad and the graduate studies. After which, we applied for accreditation to the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board in 2018 and was granted the accreditation in 2019. So let's be mindful that we do have 3 years of active accreditation. So after such, we have to see through, we have to be mindful that before it expires, we already applied for re-accreditation or we already applied for higher accreditation. Else, our accreditation will expire and we will go back to square one. No? If you may notice, like for instance, in Central Visayas, there are 143 higher education institutions according to the records of the Commission of the Higher Education. No, that's in Region 7. However, only 9 are actively accredited to research ethics. The REC is actively accredited to FRED. No, 2 for level 1, and that includes the University of Bohol. By the way, our university is the only institution in the academic institution rather in the province of Bohol, which is level 1 accredited. Another 2, there are 5 for level 3, and 3 are universities and 2 are hospitals on those 5. And for the level 3, there are 2 hospitals. So I mentioned earlier, just like any form of changes being introduced in the institution, like we were adhering to business as usual beforehand. However, when we implemented the Research Ethics Committee, it was completely a paradigm shift. I tell you, there were plenty of disagreements. There were plenty of disagreements among us. However, that's normal. No? If we introduce change, there are always resistance. But eventually, everybody is looking on the same direction on how to make things better for the clienteles we serve and for the students we serve. And I'm very proud to say that everybody toed the line in the university, faculty and students alike. So that is the best practice of the University of Bohol. I hope I gave a glimpse on how to start, how to sustain, and how to do with accreditation in your respective universities or colleges. So I would like to end my presentation with this particular line. If ethics are poor at the top, that behavior is copied down through the organization. That's according to Robert Noyce. Thank you for listening and good afternoon.
Thank you very much for your well-detailed presentation, Dr. Leah. You sure learn a lot. I will now be sharing with you a certificate.
Hello, Gail. Before you will share the certificate, we do have issues, questions here.
Yes, we could actually, if we could have an open forum if for those who would like to raise your questions. Or if
Is
you
it
can,
now? I'm sorry.
yes.
Is it now or after the second keynote speaker?
Yes, we do have open forum right after po. So if after you're speaking, if you can have the open forum now. So if you can't speak, you can actually write it in the chat box. I could read it out loud for Dr. Leah. Do we have any rejoiners or like questions or clarifications for our speaker? We have from Dr. Vibar. A need for ERC approval is indispensable, not only because it's a requirement being asked by journal reviewers, but because it is ethical and moral to undertake.
Very good.
That is noted po.
It is just the minimum requirement. Thank you very much for raising that particular point. No? Like CHED is setting the minimum requirement. However, it is our moral ascendancy as researchers. It is our adherence to what is right and proper that we should undertake ethics review. Then we also have a comment here. Yes, Ms. Gail. Who constitute the Research Ethics Review Committee? Is there a set of qualification standard for appointing the chair and members, or the appointment shall not be fixed and will primarily depend on the nature of the study to be examined and reviewed? What are the practices of University of Bohol on the selection of ERC chair and members? The standard operating procedure of the University of Bohol clearly specified what are the different let's say, what are the different, how do you call that? We do have inclusion, what do you call that? Qualifications of our members of the ethics board. We do have representative of the medical field. We do have the social science. We do have a lawyer or somebody who has the legal perspective. We also have a religious person, part of the committee. And lastly, we do have a lay person coming from the community. No? So you can have those so that all sectors were being represented, and definitely they were able to publish already on a reputable journal. So that is our qualification, a qualifier to become a member of the Research Ethics Board.
We also have a follow-up question, Doc. How do you review research proposal this pandemic, since data collection can already be done online? Let's say interviews are done via Zoom, teleconferencing, survey questionnaires are administered via Google Form, and etc.
Right, very good question, a good point. For this new normal, we cannot afford our researchers and our respondents, our research participants for qualitative and informants to be contaminated with the virus. So what we required is the ethics protocol, that it has to be done online. No? It's so clear that we don't have to let them physically sign the document, no? Because there is that question on the Google form that would ask that, are you willing to undertake this particular research? If the informant or the respondent is not willing to pursue or answering the tool, they will just take no and they can no longer proceed. So that is already the qualifier. So it also has to be taken into consideration that under the methodology, the ethics protocol pertaining to health protocol in research is being factored in already. Our research ethics committee is very particular on that. So we don't want to contaminate the community, or we don't want to put our researchers at risk.
Another question, Doc. In cases of linguistics research, such as those conducted without human participation, do the researchers still need for ERC approval?
Very good question. So I mentioned already on the first part of my presentation that all research, either no human participation, should be handed over for ethics review. It will be the research ethics committee who will decide if it is exempted for review, is it for expedited, or is it for full board. No, it's not the researcher who will decide that my study is exempted from review. It has to undertake submission to ethics review board or research ethics committee.
All right, do we have any other questions? We have from Dr. Hapus, Dr. Leah is an awesome expert. We also have another question. Will CHED allow graduate students, researchers from other universities to have their work checked by other accredited ethics board like UB?
Yes, because University of Bohol is already level 1 accredited. No? And a few weeks from now, I'm so proud with Ms. Calope and Ms. Katrina. Both of our research staff are pushing for level 2 accreditation. So we can really review ethics protocol or research protocol from different universities. Different with the same thing with other universities in Cebu City, since their accreditation is expired at this point in time. They handed over to CVCHRD, no, for review, ethics review. Pwede na po sa University of Bohol. Gladly, we will take on. So that's our responsibility to researchers from different institutions.
We have a comment from Dr. Bargo. Wow, congratulations, University of Bohol. So do we have any other questions?
Thank you.
Who would like to raise your questions to Dr. Leah?
Yeah, Dr. Emerson Vibar, do you think
Go ahead.
Institutional policies on ethics review for research proposals will need to be revisited and revised because of the present pandemic? Definitely, it is a work in progress. No? Everything is a work in progress. Anything for the higher good should be reviewed. No? So that's what we did in the university. Before, we did all physical papers will be submitted for ethics review for 5 copies for all the reviewers, but now it's becoming seamless. No? We did the submission for the papers online already, and all the research ethics committee all of them, the members of the research ethics committee in the university, are learning the technology. In other words, age is not a problem. Even Dr. Casabal is learning, the chair of the research ethics committee. She's so good already in the technology.
We also have a comment here. Thank you very much to the University Research Center Dean, Dr. Leah Wilfreda Re Pilongo, and URC staff, UB graduates co-headed by Dr. Benalibot, for this very great opportunity of joining this conference. Congratulations, Doc. Do we have any other questions?
Additional information that the University Research Center Ethics Committee of the University of Bohol has been reviewing studies done in the Middle East and other parts of the world. Because once accredited, that deputizes the center to accept clients. So for those who want to submit proposals for funding, make sure that your proposal should undergo ethics review, otherwise that will be rejected by the funding agency.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hapus.
Do we have any other questions? Let me check. I think none. So once again, we thank Dr. Leah Wilfreda Pilongo on a very informative presentation. With that, the organization would like to present this certificate. Can we give a virtual clap for Dr. Leah? You can use your emotions button below, or heart or any reactions for our third keynote speaker. So with that, the Research Advocacy Award is awarded to Dr. Leah Wilfreda Re Pilongo from the University of Bohol in grateful recognition of her outstanding service and exemplary contribution as keynote speaker towards the success of the second International Virtual Conference on Interdisciplinary Research in Higher Education 2021 with the theme Interdisciplinary Research for Collective Survival on April 8 to 10, 2021 via Zoom teleconferencing. Given this 10th day of April 2021 at Yasper's office, Cagayan de Oro City. This is signed by Dr. Hinaro Hapos, our chairman of the board, our international president, Dr. Jawari, and the president of the University of Bohol, Dr. Victoriano Pitirol. Thank you very much once again, Doc.
Deeply honored. Thank you very much, Jasper.